It's the actual countdown before the countdown. And we count down on this show like this. That's right. I should make this my ringtone. You know? Got that canned rock music. It'd be a great ringtone, except my ringtone is John always saying my name, Mace.
Wait, your ringtone is someone saying your name?
Not just someone, baby.
I don't care, man. That smacks of narcissism. Besides, don't you know your own name? Come on, man.
Yeah, hey, when John always said my name the first time, talking about 2 tight ends and Jake Butt, I made it my ringtone.
Golly, orange.
Hooligans holiday. Depends on who calls me. Everyone has a different ringtone. So
yeah, I'm one of those people who does have different ringtones for different people. Yeah, alas. Although I don't have a set ringtone for you yet, my friend. So
okay. Well, I hope it's a Star Wars one when we get there eventually. It's Orange and Blue today. We're presented by Sean Ponda, Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason, checking in from Centura Health Training Center, where you and I were both at. And we both saw Jerry Jeudy out there, man. We're going to start with the hotness. Could Jerry Jeudy be ready for week 1?
Probably not, based on what I saw. Now, when Sean Payton was asked about Jerry Jeudy after practice, of course, Payton famously doesn't want to talk about injuries, said limited, that was it. The other player who was topic of discussion today, Greg Dulcich.
Yes.
He had an excused absence. We all, of course, saw him not be out there at the start of practice. But I would say this. Watching Jerry Jeudy and the way he was moving, hamstring injuries do take some time to get back from. So I'd say my educated guess is probably a stretch to see him on Sunday. But you're talking about him doing some individual practice reps 13 days after injuring a hamstring. I mean, I don't see how that can be interpreted as anything less than the most positive possible sign. I didn't think we'd be talking about him getting some even limited practice reps this soon after the injury.
Yeah, I thought it might be next week they would warm him up and ramp him up for week 3, but perhaps week 2 is in the target date for Jerry Jeudy. And when we look at Jerry Jeudy, I was watching him closely, Mason. I was thinking, it's not just today, it's how does he look tomorrow? You know, how did his body respond tomorrow? So this is always like the test day. And then tomorrow, how's your body respond? I still don't think he plays against the Raiders, but this is a really good sign. And they put him no short-term IR. So we knew it was going to be within 4 weeks anyway. Although I think it was Adam that had he's going to be out several weeks. Well, okay, maybe it's not several weeks.
Right. I mean, I think several weeks, to me, that's a minimum of 5. We're talking about him being out in the practice field in a fortnight, less than a fortnight, 1 day short of that. And maybe if he's not ready by Sunday, you're talking about 3.5 weeks. That's a few. I mean, I will say this. I think I am probably guilty of having too literal a definition on things like a couple and a several. Like, I'm sorry, you say a couple's 2, right? Because if you're talking about 3, the common term now is a throuple, right? So a couple is 2. Tell me it's a couple of weeks. I'm thinking 2 weeks. A couple of days, 2 days. A couple of minutes, 2 minutes. But that's just the way my brain works.
Yeah.
I have weird brain.
Yeah, well, hey, you like what you like, and we figure out what we figure out here. But with Jerry Jeudy in this situation, we can have some positivity, and we can look forward to perhaps even seeing him not on the injury report next week. But this is good news for the Broncos.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, if he's out there on Sunday, maybe you don't see him on the injury report next week at all. I would imagine if he isn't out there Sunday, we'll still see him on the injury report as he works his way back. But anyway, again, it's even if he doesn't play on Sunday, it's hard to take this as anything but a good sign going forward that he's out there and getting some reps. Meanwhile, side field, you had Baron Browning, you had PJ Locke, which should tell you that when they are first available, which is after 4 games, they're eligible to come back. You could probably expect both of them to be back pretty quickly into that window when it opens after the Chicago game.
Okay, it is Orange and Blue today. We're presented by Sean Ponda. Jerry in the chat room asked about Bowles not getting captain. I don't pay attention to that stuff, Mace. So like, I don't think it's a conversation point necessarily. Nothing against Jerry's question, but we do know that, you know, watching what Deion's done at CU, and are you a dog or are you a leader? Well, the Broncos have captains, I guess, and Bowles isn't one of them.
I'm not sure
surprised.
I'm not sure about putting the L on people's jerseys.
Right,
though.
right.
You see that leader, I know, but man, that's that can be misconstrued a little bit. And if things go south at CU, then I'm sorry, I wouldn't want L's on the chests of my players, but I digress.
Yes.
Mike McGlinchey got the captain spot from the offensive line because you're looking at Russell Wilson, Cortland Sutton, and then of course Mike McGlinchey. And then on defense, I believe it was Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons, right? Which is interesting. Kareem Jackson is still listed as an or on the first team at that safety spot, Kareem Jackson or Caden Stearns. But we are seeing on the depth chart, K-Jack is listed as a starter. And then on special teams, Riley Dixon, I think that's just a function of Dixon being an experienced player and having been around the entire offseason. Who's to say that couldn't have been Will Lutz if the Broncos hadn't picked him up earlier, but they didn't get him until last week, so it goes. I think it's an interesting discussion. I don't think it's a big deal. And honestly, with all due respect to Garrett Bowles, I don't think it's a surprise that he's not the captain, okay?
Right.
It's not just a seniority with the team thing. There are other factors involved with it, and Mike McGlinchey seems to check off more boxes when it comes to leadership for the overall unit than Garrett Bowles does. Different people, different skill sets, different strengths as far as personalities go. It's okay. It's not a big deal, but yeah, it didn't surprise me at all that Garrett Bowles wasn't a captain.
I got a little bit of tidbit from Mike McGlinchey. That's coming up a little bit later in the show as I talked to him in the open locker room today. You were in the open locker room there as well. And just the energy around this team. And we see Destroy the Raiders here in the chat room. Even the young players understand this rivalry. They haven't been here for it. They don't really get it, but they know what Broncos fans think. And what they think is forget the Raiders.
Forget the Raiders?
I could use another F word, but then I'd get kicked off the show.
I think they want to remember the Raiders, but I think it's definitely bleep that. You know, that's I think fans certainly remember 6 losses in a row. Now, it's interesting how it's being perceived by all the new players coming in. Michael Burton mentioned in the locker room today, hey, this is a new team. This is a different team. And look, a lot of these guys were not a part of those 6 losses, but plenty of them were and have experienced that. I think this game is a very good way to set a tone. If this is going to be different, this is where you start against a team, not a great team, a fairly mid side, right? Are the Las Vegas Raiders. But they've taken the measure of you now 6 consecutive times. And the only reason it's not 8 consecutive times is because Josh Jacobs did not play that last game at the end of the 2019 season. That's the only time the Broncos have lost the Raiders since Josh Jacobs joined the team in 2019 was when he literally didn't play. Right. This team has owned you. Josh Jacobs in particular has owned you. And how do you show that it's different? Now this is one thing where I like having this game in week 1. Your defense is fairly healthy. I mean, you look around, you've got Damari Mathis back at cornerback. He's in line to start. You've got Justin Simmons ready to go after missing all that time in training camp. You're healthy at the other safety spot with Kareem Jackson and Caden Stearns. The only guy of note that you're missing is Baron Browning. You feel pretty good about Randy Gregory and Jonathan Cooper being out there as your starting edges. Right. So you're facing the Raiders at full strength, and I think this gives you an advantage, whereas some of those other years you faced the Raiders, like those 2021 games, for example, both those times you didn't have Josie Jewell out there. Well, Josie's going to be out there on Sunday because it's the first game of the season, and this team is as fresh as it's probably going to be.
Yeah, take some notes. Professor Mace is on the case at Centura Health Training Center, Orange and Blue today. Stopping Jacobs was the topic on the defenders' minds that we're talking in the open locker room. Zach Allen brought it up unprompted, by the way. Jonathan Cooper was asked about it, called Jacobs a top 5, top 3 back in this league. That's not too far off for the all-purpose yardage leader for the NFL. Josh Jacobs, though, only a couple weeks back with the Raiders with his little hold-in thing and the contract thing. And, well, now he's kind of happy, I guess. Are any of the Raiders happy? It seems like that's a story, but
Chandler Jones isn't happy.
Chandler Jones is not happy at all.
Is he even going to be out there on Sunday? I mean,
he was not at the facility. I think they gave him an excused absence today.
Yeah, he said he's training on his own, and the deleted post that he had was on Instagram or Twitter earlier this week.
Right.
X. Can't call it that. Yeah, shocking. Players aren't happy with a Josh McDaniels-led team. Gee, where have we seen that before?
Veteran players, yeah.
09, 2010, back in Denver when he was here. Yeah, you magically thought that the passage of time would make Josh McDaniels different. Not so much. Not so much.
No, you think you want to learn from your mistakes, and Josh doesn't. He doesn't do that. Josh Jacobs has destroyed the Broncos, though. But 2 weeks back, can we expect the real Josh Jacobs, or will there be some rust to kind of shake off in this contest?
It's running back. He's a veteran, a 5-year vet. I don't think there's going to be much rust to shake off. I think he's going to be good to go. I think you ought to expect, if anything, a Josh Jacobs who's a little bit fresher, because they have some physical practices out there in the McDaniels regime in Las Vegas, and he hasn't had to experience them. So I think on balance, it's going to be expect the same Josh Jacobs you've seen over the last few years. The question is whether this Broncos defense is different. And again, here's a great chance right out of the gate to establish that you are different.
Yes, that you are different and that you can stand up to a Jimmy Garoppolo-led team. That's what the defenders were talking about in the locker room as well. Mike McGlinchey saying, I hope we beat his ass. Like he said, he wished him well because he's his friend and Jimmy Garoppolo, but he's like, nope, I hope we beat his ass. So, okay, there you go. See if the Broncos can do that. I think the Raiders will emphasize that ground game. And then it's Devontae versus PS2. We love Pat Surtain.
Didn't go well last year.
Yeah, this is, and I even asked him when I got to talk to Pat Surtain one-on-one, and he didn't take the bait, so to speak. I wasn't baiting him, but I did bring up Davante Adams, and he did not respond in any sort of way about Davante Adams. But you know it has to be on his mind. Pat Surtain's one of the best competitors in this league.
And that was his worst game. Well, that and then the game right after that last year when they went to Carolina and DJ Moore took the measure of him. So for Pat Surtain, actually, this first month here, these first 4 games, huge, because he's seeing 2 of the guys that actually lit him up, which is rare for Pat Surtain. He's got a chance to take the measure of Davante Adams on Sunday. He can do it to DJ Moore in Chicago 3 weeks later. So I like getting this out of the way. The question is, now that you've got Derek Carr out in New Orleans, Jimmy Garoppolo in Las Vegas, is that going to be the best type of quarterback to maximize Davante Adams' skill set? Because Carr is willing to go deep more often, whereas Jimmy Garoppolo, and this is something that you see on film and you've heard reiterated by a bunch of guys in the Broncos locker room this week on the defensive side, it's much more rhythm and timing based with him, especially running this offense that Josh McDaniels wants to run. So it's going to look and feel a bit different. And is that going to play to the strengths of Davante Adams? It may well play more to the strengths of Hunter Renfrow having a big game, which is why Isang Bassi making the start at nickel corner could well be under the gun in this one.
Yeah, and Isang Bassi, okay, go get you another pick. How about that? Didn't we say, or at least I said, is like, is he going to make it 5? Like, what, 4 in a row, right? 3 games, and then the 4th in the first regular season game? We could see that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll find out.
Renfro's a tough pull, though, man. He reminds me of Stoke. Always did.
I wanted this team to take Hunter Renfrow back.
We saw him at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, and you know what? The thing about Hunter Renfrow is he's too short, he's too light, his hands are too small. But forget about all that. Like, and he's also too slow. Like, everything numbers-wise on him says he shouldn't have succeeded. But then you just watch him. He gets open. The thing that the numbers and the data doesn't measure is how he sets up a defender. That was something that Isang Bassi talked about. You can't fall for the first move from Hunter Renfrow. That's because he's going to get you off balance. there are probably very few players in the league that are savvier at setting up an opposing slot cornerback than Hunter Renfrow. And so that's a matchup that's kind of bubbling under the surface. We're talking about Devontae Adams. We're talking about Josh Jacobs. But Essang Bassey on Hunter Renfrow, that may be one that helps decide this, because Bassey getting this huge role while K'Wan Williams is on injured reserve, he may well have the toughest test he's going to have all year in that slot corner role against Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah, and maintain your confidence out there. Speaking of confidence, I have to say, for the first time in a long time, I feel confident about the Broncos covering tight ends, not just because of the inexperience, although Hooper's got experience, like not because of the tight ends they're facing in week 1, but just the strides Josey Jewell has made, the things we're going to see from Drew Sanders in this game. Like,
yeah,
you know, it's really Adams and Jacobs. Can you contain 2 players, superstars, to be sure, but I'm not worried about tight end anymore.
Well, they traded the guy that you worried about, right? I mean,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, what was that? You know, someone getting upset that they weren't invited to a wedding. I mean, that's the scuttlebutt, right? That that someone wasn't invited to the wedding of Darren Waller and Kelsey Plum, the WNBA star. And next thing you know, Waller's getting traded. Gosh. I mean, too bad, breaking up the Las Vegas sports power couple, man. I mean,
exactly.
You know, that was a little disappointing to see. But
what would Josh McDaniels get you for wedding present anyway? Probably like a bread maker. He probably re-gifted you a bread maker from his wedding.
Yeah, label maker, right? Like on Seinfeld, the re-gifted label baby junior.
Right.
Love the label baby, but then the labels don't stay on.
Right.
Yes.
It's Orange and Blue today. We're presented by Sean Ponda. Our guy David. Quick Senior Bowl story. I had front row at Josh Allen's press conference at the Senior Bowl because David saved a spot for me.
Oh, how nice.
Shout out, David.
How nice of David.
What's up, dude? He's like, talks about Samaje Perine. We've discussed it before. We can't reveal what we've said at practice. Some people in the comments, which YouTube comments are usually not where you want to go, Mace, but some people are like, would you guys stop saying that you can't say it? Well, we want to remind you that we observe practice. We can get a feel for how things are going to work out. I don't think Perine's going to get 50% of the work.
No, context matters here. I will say, I mean, if you look at the depth chart for what it's worth, number 1 is Javonte Williams, number 2 is Samaje Perine. Now, that being said, the workload limitations on Javonte Williams may mean it basically is 50-50 between the two of them for this week. But let's see how that evolves over the coming weeks. And let's see what role Jaleel McLaughlin evolves into as well. Like I said, I divide it 42-16 in terms of the percentage between the three in this week. So that in terms of overall touches, that's where I think it'll be. And there's the question, Michael Lloyd. How many touches do you predict for rookie undrafted running back? Look, Sean Payton had a comment on this today. Like, how many snaps are we going to get? That's why I don't predict touches. I say percentages. Okay. That's why I'll say 16% of the touches going to Jaleel McLaughlin in this game.
Yeah. There you go.
What
Miami
happened to
Bass Mace will return.
Okay. The sport
I thought
coats,
you'd be sweating outside, though. I was worried about you, Mace.
The sport coats are all back in the studio, and I'm stuck here at the field house because things ran late. I may make a point of bringing a sport coat in my car now to accommodate for this, but I wouldn't be wearing it today. It is hot as blazes out there.
Yes.
Yeah, I made a tactical error even going for the quarter zip today. You know, I don't know. I guess I thought it was going to be like it was yesterday. Yesterday was delightful. Today it's hot. I mean, it's not Phoenix hot, but it's hot. So it's hotter than we expected.
You made a tactical error going with the red.
Well,
no red this week, baby.
This isn't red. This is like fuchsia. Okay, this is not Nebraska red. Okay, no, not red. Red is. Okay.
There's no red in the field house either.
No, it's
orange and blue, baby. That's what it is.
And white. Yeah. It's not like back when it was, remember at Sports Authority Field, how people got upset because the sign was red?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, well, that's their corporate identity, but.
Right. Yeah. Well, we stick with the ground game rushing attack talk because when I asked Mike McGlinchey about rhythm running, he said it's no different. And I've talked to Willie Parker about this back in the day with Jerome Bettis. I've talked to multiple players. I've talked to Terrell Davis about this. McGlinchey was the first one that said, no, it doesn't matter who's behind him. Like, they open the holes the same way. Every other player, and that's mostly backs that I've talked to, Mace, said it does matter to develop that timing, but McGlinchey expressed confidence in Jaleel, but also said, like, we're doing our job. It's our job to blast open those holes, regardless of the timing of the back behind us.
Well, right. And the job doesn't change regardless of who the running back is. I mean, you were there. I hadn't heard that comment before, because the problem is, like, we're doing this show so quickly after. I don't know everything that's been said. So that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it's what this team has to do, is go out there and emphasize the ground game. And again, I think on the flip side, that's what you're going to see. So excited, week 1. This isn't going to be any sort of CU-TCU game, Mace. From a score-wise standpoint, we can definitely say that.
No, but it's the NFL. I watch the NFL because I don't like a lot of college football. I mean, especially in the Big 12, nobody plays defense. Okay. That was, CU is already ready for the Big 12 because they were in a 45-42 shootout to start. I like a circuit where they play some defense. I'm expecting this game to be somewhere around 23 to 17 points. Maybe a 23-17 score either way. And you know what? That may be a lot of Broncos games this year.
There you go. It is Orange and Blue today. We're presented by Sean Honda. Mace, anything else to wrap up today's show, or are we done?
I mean, I caught a little bit of Russell Wilson toward the end. The other thing also, it kind of jumps out to me is I asked Sean Payton today about Jonathan Cooper. Now, Jonathan Cooper is listed atop the depth chart. I didn't mention the depth chart in my question. I just asked about Jonathan Cooper. He used that as a way to say, well, all the guys are going to play kind of equally, blah, blah, blah. I think it's funny how you don't even mention the term and he gets a little bit defensive about the notion of a depth chart and establishing a first team and a second team. He starts saying, oh, we may come out in this personnel so the fullback can start and all that. It's like, this is like something that really gets to him, the notion of a starting lineup, the notion of I have to declare a depth chart. Like this is something that I want to peel back the layers on this, because this is twice he's kind of gone on some soliloquies about it, and yet I didn't mention the words depth chart. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's just on his mind. And what is it? Thou doth protest too much. Like you just kind of wander around that. He's like, gets all mad.
It's interesting. It's interesting to me. No, but there's a lot of interesting things about this fellow. So we're still finding out. We're fixing to find out, as Coobs would say.
That we are. I think he needs to do like Peter Griffith and Family Guy and be like, you know what grinds my gears? Depth charts.
If he could say it in that accent, like, in the Rhode Island, New England accent. You know what grinds my gear? I can't do that. I suck. Oh, yeah.
Your accent wasn't that bad, baby.
It grinds my gears. I mean, I can do more of like a Boston accent from Good Will Hunting a little better,
Right.
Better. Go in and ask for a retainer. Retainer.
I got a number.
I got a number. How do you like them apples?
Right. I just like when you say Virginia, Mace.
Virginia. That's very local.
Very much so. All right, that's a wrap today for Orange and Blue today. We are presented by Sean Ponda. He is Andrew Mason. I am Cecil Lammey. OBT is a BFD. We appreciate you all. And the YouTube audience has been fantastic, except for that one guy. Anyway, so make sure to do the YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid, as OBT is a BFD, and we appreciate you. So until next time, be safe, be kind, know that you're appreciated. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty,